Welcome to Bruno's MMA show. I am very glad to have with me today Elaine, who has the Instagram moniker of Jiujitsu Grandma. Hello, Elaine. How are you doing?
I'm fine.
So, Elaine, I was talking about it with you before we started recording. Basically, the reason why I really wanted to have you as a guest is because, online you always see that question, and the number changes, but the question is always the same. At age X, am I too old to start X martial art? And that question always annoys the hell out of me. Not because I have any bad feelings about the person writing them, but I find it discouraging that if they want to do it, they stop themselves because of age X. So, do you want to tell us about your martial art journey, basically?
Well, I started at 69, which is really late. It's really late. But I didn't, I wanted to do judo, and there wasn't anybody teaching judo that I knew of in where I lived. I had taken about a 6-week course when I was 20 years old down in South Alabama. And when I got back to Birmingham, I couldn't find anybody that taught it. So it just sort of lay dormant until I was 69 and somebody walked in and said, my gym teaches judo. And I went, they do. So I called over there and I said, am I too old to take your classes? She said, well, how old are you? I said, 69. And she said, let me go ask the professor. So she came back and said, sure. He said, okay. So I showed up. I was the only female in the class. I had 4 teenage boys on one side and 4 guys that looked like they played for the, National Football League on the other side. And there's me, and I'm 5 feet tall and weigh 110. So I'm going, this is not going to be good. But I had a lot of fun, and I stuck with it. And then a month later, my instructor said, you need to try the jiu-jitsu mat, which was next to it. And I went, okay. So I just did judo and jiu-jitsu for quite a while, and then I started concentrating on jiu-jitsu.
So, just out of curiosity, basically, you because I wasn't a. This is funny because you kind of swept the rug from under me in the sense that I wanted to address that you also do judo later on, but now we start with this. So,
So
so then, just obviously, it's always a matter of personal preference. But why are you Jiu-Jitsu Grandma instead of Judo Grandma on Instagram?
I don't think I could really get anywhere in judo.
Okay.
Where in jiu-jitsu, I'm more inclined. I've got a master 7, and fighting on the ground is really easier than throwing somebody, even though I like actually judo better.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And it does help with jiu-jitsu,
Yeah.
but I'm probably not. Timing is hard in judo. You've got to get the timing down, and I'm not good at reading that.
Yeah.
But I do like the actual class itself a lot.
That's interesting that, okay, I didn't expect to have this conversation with you, but actually, my grappling started with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I got to blue belt, and then I transitioned. At the moment, what I practice is combat sambo. So basically, sambo is like this Russian martial art, and it's a mix of, I guess you could say, judo and wrestling, mostly. Um, and the thing is that even when I was doing jiu-jitsu, I always wanted to start on the feet because in my head I was like, what's the point of knowing all this stuff on the ground if I can't get the person on the ground, So I
That's right.
and that's and to me, like when I see people do like jiu-jitsu and they never do any throws or takedowns or anything, I'm like, okay, that there's something missing. There's an understanding, an essential understanding, and the thing is, standing grappling is, to be honest, very difficult. I find like because I've been doing sambo for a while now, but what I find is it really helped me avoid throws and takedowns, but I'm still not very good at throws. so, so it's very difficult. It is like for me anyway. But okay. So yeah, like I was saying, we see stuff like, am I too old to start at 35 years old? And you start at 69, and now you have your blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Am I correct? Okay.
Yes.
And so far, can you tell us about the journey? Like, how has it been for you, this experience?
I really enjoyed the fighting aspect of this. I know that sounds weird at my age, but I do. I've always been a scrappy little person, and so it's really fun for me. It is it is an issue with age, but when I step on that mat, I forget what age I am because I'm usually around a bunch of younger people. It
Yeah.
makes me feel younger too. I just, in my mind, I don't think, oh my gosh, you're a little old person and they're young. It just doesn't, I don't do that. I do it later at night when I have to climb into bed and I can't move.
Because that's something that needs to be addressed, I think. Like, obviously, whenever, and you said, like, oh, it might sound weird. It doesn't sound weird to me, but yeah, it probably sounds weird to a lot of people, to be honest, because I sound weird to coworkers and stuff like that when I tell them what I do as a hobby. But here's the thing, okay? I want to address this because some people, it's like they don't want to acknowledge this. And what I like about you is you just go and you acknowledge it. Like, oh, I like to do this. I like to fight. It sounds weird, but I like it. And there's a lot of people, it's like they need an excuse in modern society to be doing this sort of thing, where they go, oh, it keeps me in shape. I like to keep it. Look, you can do aerobics, you can do swimming. There's lots of things that will keep you in shape that are not fighting. If you do fighting, you wanted to do fighting. And that's something that I think if people address it and people acknowledge it, I think that's a much healthier approach because then also you don't yourself, you're not like filtering yourself, you're not like lying to yourself and maybe limiting yourself in your mindset when you do it. So I like that you say that. I really like that you say it. You're in the right show. But so this is something you wanted to do for a long time, and you finally got around to doing it. And you say that sometimes like it's not easy when you get like in the moment you're in the mindset, it's good, but then it might be a bit harder after. But I want to address that because it's also true that when you do martial arts, grappling, striking, no matter what, you get hurt sometimes. That can happen, and
Yes, it is.
yes. Um, so again, I don't like to sell this idea of like, oh, if you do this, there's no hardship involved.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, there's hardship.
Uh, how was it for you? Because like the thing is that you did obviously everyone is younger. Everyone is younger. Everyone is, and I imagine not everyone has the same amount of self-control, like spazzy white belts and stuff like that, where instead of going like being very technical, they might be a bit rougher. So how has the experience been for you? Like, because I imagine if you've been all the way to blue belt, you found a good school, which is good. I don't think you would have stuck around in a bad school that would have gotten your hurt. But how has the experience been in that side where maybe sometimes it was a bit rougher? How did you deal with it? How did you take it, basically?
My professor that runs that school runs a very tight school. He expects good behavior. You don't hurt the girls. They don't usually put me with a white belt because they don't, especially a beginning white belt. And I think the guys are maybe a little more careful, at least at the beginning.
Okay.
Quite frankly, if I'm fixing to go against somebody who weighs 160 or 180, I'll say, so you're going to beat up your grandmother today? And then they go, no. It makes them feel bad. So
Mental warfare.
More careful for a minute.
That's your mental warfare. I see. It would work on me. See, it would totally work on me. It's like, oh no.
I actually, though, I have one of my partners that I roll with often is, I think he's 15. He rolls very hard. And his brothers don't like to roll with him because he rolls harder. But I actually like that. He pushes me to really work at something. And if I really get stuck, he'll say, okay, you should have done this. So that's helpful too. I mean, he'll coach as he kills me. This is good.
So okay, so that's interesting and very good to know because then it means you wanna have that adversity. You wanna so okay. So this is interesting too. I think it's very positive, but it's not for everyone. But I think for anyone who has this feeling that, hey, maybe I want to do this, I think it's important in life to just do it and not like be wondering, not finding excuses not to do it. And I think a lot of people's mentality, it's almost all or nothing. It's almost like they go like, oh, I guess I'm too old to become a world champion, therefore I'm not gonna start it. But look, for the people out there, okay, There's one in a chance in a million that I'm wrong, but anyone watching this video, you are not going to be a world champion anyway, even if you start at 7. So that excuse is just out of the way.
That's right. That's right.
And no matter um, how better you get or not, you'll still be better than you were before. So it's still worthwhile. Than just doing nothing and sitting. Like as soon as you showed up in the class, you're already better than you were before you entered the place. So that's something that I think is really fun, where you just wanted to have this experience and you went for it. It wasn't a matter of, oh, I guess I'm not going to be as good as if I had started at 7, but yeah, you're still going to be better than if you stayed home.
That's right. Well, I wasn't really planning on being competing either, but my professor just pulled me aside one day and said, "Oh, by the way, I'm taking you to the Worlds." And I went, "I even haven't done any competition." He said, "That's okay." I said, "I'm not even a blue belt yet." He said, "You will be by the time you go." And I'm like, this is not good. But I did. I said, "Okay." And so I went. So there you go. Yeah.
So for those people who are less familiar with the setup of jiu-jitsu tournaments, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know all of them. But normally it is divided by weight categories and age for Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So again, for anyone who had this excuse of, oh, I wouldn't be able to compete with someone who's 20, well, you won't have to. So not in competitions anyway. So in class, yes, but not in competition. So how many people were there when you went to the competition?
Okay, let me correct one thing. You actually do have to fight people that weigh more and are younger than you if you wish to. I do, because they have a regular class, but then you do absolute, which is whoever happens to show up.
Okay,
so
okay. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
I was fighting somebody who was 40 years old. She killed me. And tomorrow I'm fighting somebody who outweighs me by 20 pounds and is probably around 40 years old also. I'll get killed again. But that's okay, it's the experience.
Yes, and also, the thing is that when you go against these people, of course, they're people with training. And what I think, this is gonna sound kind of weird, but I love stories of people who think they're gonna bully the weak, and then they get their comeuppance. Like there's stories like this guy who tried to. I don't know if it's an internet story, if it's true, but I like to believe it's true. This guy went to a blind dude and punched a blind dude asking for a cigarette, but it turns out the blind was apparently a blind judo champion, and just threw him on the ground, kept him there until the police arrived. And this story of this guy this one is true because there was a news article. This dude who broke into the house of an old couple, but the man was an old boxer, professional boxer, and just boxed the hell out of him. So, so that's the thing people need to understand too. Is like sometimes you go up against people with training all the time, and these people progress with you, and some of them will have natural abilities or might be younger. Like even I deal with at my age now. Even I deal with younger people with more fuel. I'm almost 40, and I can tell that there's something in there that I'm like I have to really go into my mind. It's no longer in the body, now it's in the mind. Whereas, and what's interesting is sometimes when I manage to push through the younger people, when the body goes, like the mind isn't trained yet to deal with that necessarily as much. So but like already I'm dealing with it. So it's a reality that as you get older, like there's less fire in the body, and you have to go get in the mind. But again, one thing for people who train and they haven't been doing this for a long time, always remember that untrained people are different. They're not the same. They don't have that mental constitution. They don't have all the techniques. So even if what you tell me, oh, I go against people who are 40 and all that, but like most people who are 40, if they don't know any martial arts.
Yeah, but the ones I have to compete against usually have more experience than I do.
I was actually thinking of that because if you enter competitions at blue belt can be a long time. Some people have been blue belts. Some blue belts are almost purple belts, and some blue belts should be purple belts by now. So,
right. That's true. That's true. But once you get my age too, there's not a lot of people my age and weight In fact, I think there's maybe 2 or 3 that I've run across. So it's not like I'm in the main fight. I'm fighting maybe just one other person, and then even if I lose, I'm going to get to fight again in the absolute. So that's good for me.
Yeah, it is. Well, that's fun then. You don't do the trip for one match. Yeah, that's so. Do you often get messages from people like saying you inspired them in some way? I imagine you do.
A lot.
Yeah.
I get a lot of messages from Instagram saying that they do, and that surprised me. Truthfully, it surprised me. I'm a little old lady. I mean, what's inspiring about a little old lady? But they do. I guess because I'm trying.
But I think that's the point. You go, oh, I'm a little lady. Yeah, and you're doing it, and then I think, like, for example, imagine this 50-year-old guy who maybe even like keeps in shape but was intimidated by the idea of doing it, and then he comes across your Instagram.
Yeah.
Looking at his bench press set and looking like, oh, well, maybe.
That's right.
How about so who, I don't know. I don't know if this is a question that might go nowhere, but who would you say you receive the most messages from? What kind of people you would inspire the most normally? Or is it like very varied, or do you have like a specific type of...
It is varied, but surprisingly, a lot of younger people say, well, it gives me hope that I can keep doing this later in life, that there won't be a stopping point at 40 or 45, that if you're started at 69, surely once I start at 20, I should be able to keep going, well into my later years. Yeah. So that's interesting.
Although that's a lesson I think, I guess, what I think happens, because what's funny to me is, in my mind, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu already proved that with the Gracies. Like, there's some really old Gracies who train all the way to the end, like they were already the proof. But I think in some way, when people idolize, because they're so idolized, it's almost like they're put on this pedestal away from normal people. You know what I mean? So seeing other people like, oh, your last name is not Gracie and you're still doing it when you're at a certain age, then it becomes maybe more real, like less of a mythical figure, like, oh, okay, it's not just them.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not just them. Elaine is doing it, like. So that's interesting, so young people saying like, oh, that's cool, like it means I'm not gonna have to give this up,
Yes.
Yeah. So right now you're a blue belt. You've been a blue belt for how long?
Since last July. So a year. I've got 1 stripe.
Okay. Yeah. That's more than me. I have 0 stripes in my blue belt because I went to Sambo, so there's no belts there.
That's right.
Well, there's one that ties the jacket, but it never changes color unless you. There's 2 colors, red and blue, and they don't mean anything.
So you do jiu-jitsu at all, or are you just doing your other?
Here's the thing. In my mind, I still do grappling, and because where I go, we do combat sambo. So sometimes we do like regular sambo, which is like judo wrestling, and other times combat sambo is like MMA with a jacket, basically. Right. Because we have the gloves, and we put the headgear and all that, the mouthpiece, and well, I also wear the mouthpiece for grappling, though, to be honest. But so that's sambo, and then I also do submission wrestling, which is basically no-gi jiu-jitsu. It's the same thing. Right. We just don't use a belt system. To me, grappling is grappling. I'm not. How can I put this? I'm not attached to the name of a system as much as the experience, doing it. And what I was looking for was right now, it was more like, even when I did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, there's moves that I personally, I would kind of get, like, my mindset was very much in self-defense because of the reasons why I started doing it. So whenever I would get into certain moves, and I don't even want to name the moves because I don't want to get into the whole debate, but whenever like the other person would put me in certain moves that would only work for competition grappling, like I would kind of get discouraged. So I I guess it was an automatic win for them because my motivation would kind of go away, And I noticed when I would do grappling with people who also did MMA, then I was really into it. Like the things we were doing were the things I was looking for in my grappling. Even if we're not hitting each other, we wouldn't put each other in positions where if we were to hit, it would be bad. If that makes sense. So that was my own personal experience. So I don't really, for me, I'm still doing the same thing. It's just that now I'm doing it in a place where everyone has this agreement that the sort of grappling we're looking for is one where we consider if we were to hit each other, this would not be a good idea.
Right.
Even when we do pure grappling, So, but that's my personal experience because to be quick about it, and we're going back to you, but to be quick about it, because the reason why I started learning grappling was one time I had to defend a woman in the subway, and I was trying to hold this man down without hurting him, but at the same time I was hoping he didn't have a weapon on him, and that kind of made me realize that grappling is really important because it's like, also legally speaking, you don't want to just start punching someone, you know what I mean? Like, so it was just that was my motivation for starting grappling, and I think it has really painted how I practice it as well and how I see it. That's my personal experience. So, yeah.
Well, I certainly think it would help me if I were ever attacked. If you already know something in your head, you don't panic. It keeps your brain intact so you can think, I need to do this, or I should do that, or I'm trained to, so I could at least get away, if nothing else. I've had a few people say, wouldn't you fight them? I went, no, I'm, 71 now. I just need to get away. But I know some things, judo probably more than jiu-jitsu, to do that. But they have taught self-defense at the gym also, which is helpful.
I think it's important, and I never look down at sport only grappling, but I just want people to understand what is sport grappling and what isn't. What I need to say about that is that some people think that what I mean by that is if someone knows this sport grappling thing that works in competition, but in real life they would get stumped in the head or something like that, but they know that, and if they have to defend, they're gonna do something else. I have no issue with that. I just, the only problem I have is when people go like, when people don't make that difference in their mind, like they don't differentiate between what is good for sport, what's good. And also the thing is, looking back on it now, my regret I have when I was sort of like internally rolling my eyes at the sport positions is that they still give you this really good understanding of grappling, which helps anyway for everything. Yeah. It's still body mechanics, it's still movement, it's still all of those things still make you better. So I do have a regret, as a side note, I do have a regret that my motivation was not always 100% for everything I was doing. That's just as a quick side note as well, I should say. But yeah, for example, one thing that's really important that you learned in grappling, judo, Brazilian jiu-jitsu is, what if someone tries to hold you down? You have the knowledge to get away from that. And that is maybe the most important aspect in self-defense when it comes to grappling. And that's the thing that people like have to understand. Like when they go, grappling for self-defense is no good because if you go to the ground, another friend might kick you in the head. Well, yeah, but it also teaches you to get out of there. If you just do boxing or Muay Thai, you're not going to learn how to get out of. If a heavy person is on top of you and you didn't do grappling, you don't know how to get out of that.
You wouldn't even have an idea of what to do. But my professor always teaches takedowns also, as well as ground stuff. They do both. So I even if I'm not in judo class, I'm getting that takedown thing. And we also have a striking class. They did on Zoom when we were in the virus thing. Yeah. And so we did some boxing then, and I had done a little boxing before. I like boxing too. Yeah. It's another thing. It's another fighting thing. Just,
I think it's good to practice people who do just grappling. Like, I'm not saying they need to like go do Muay Thai and all that stuff, but I think it's good for sometimes just to have the partner put on some big thick boxing gloves and not hit hard. Just try to like just tag them in the face, and for them to practice takedowns or something like that, just to understand the range, because that's another thing. Like very often when I would start my feet, I like to stay straight up, which is when the other person is like leaning forward, putting their butt away, and like they're just leaning forward. That's very good if you're only doing grappling. But again, what I wanted to practice, I wanted to be straight up, kind of more like in judo or MMA or, and that is also something that kind of got me in trouble in the sense that, yeah, if you're only doing grappling, you don't have to worry about an uppercut or something like that. I guess you're at a disadvantage if you're like straight up and the other person is like this. But I guess judo players would disagree with me actually.
Well, I mean, again, the other night he was teaching me if somebody throws a punch at you, this is what you do to avoid it. So he's gone through a lot of that in our classes over and over again. So we get that also, as well as how to take somebody down, and then what to do, of course, once you get down. But so I feel like it's been a very well-rounded class for me because they've done a little bit of everything. But yeah, the boxing's fun. My brothers taught me how to throw a punch when I was about 6 years old, and I blacked my brother's eye, so I know I did it good.
So by the way, we've been talking about your school for a while. I guess it's only fair that we mention it. So your instructor is who's your instructor? Like
Professor Khalifa Oliveira, and Professor Pedro Dutra also teaches a lot of the classes there. But Khalifa owns the gym and is our main guy. He's going to be coaching me tomorrow when we get over to Mississippi.
Awesome. That's interesting because there's a Hickson Gracie who was really worried about he always says like self-defense should never go away from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I agree with that. I think it shouldn't be lost. Definitely not. Like self-defense should always be there because at the end of the day, the matches are fun, competition is fun, but I think the true purpose of it is self-defense. That's at the end of the day, that's the true purpose.
Yeah.
Everything else is very fun, but it's fun you're having while you're also learning a valuable life skill.
That's true.
Life-preserving skill,
Life-preserving skill.
So it's very good, and it's just this notion of like, look, even if you concentrate on grappling, you should know how the basic mechanic of a punch works, so at least you don't get punched, like stuff like that. But so your competition tomorrow. So you told me earlier, you know who your adversary is going to be. Yeah, in your category, there's one 40-year-old person.
I'm not sure what age she is. I know she is in masters. That means she is over 40. Okay. And she weighs up to 135. I weigh 110. So normally they're going to be on the lower end of that age group usually. And but I haven't met her yet, so I'm not sure. I know she weighs more than me. But and I know she's younger, but I don't know how much younger.
So no need to say it here, but do you know what her name is, or?
Yes.
Try to look her up on YouTube. Try to come up with
I tried. We couldn't find her.
Instagram either?
Oh, we've been Googling around trying to find her, but we haven't found anything. So this is true.
The thing about Jiu-Jitsu now is like Instagram is so popular with Jiu-Jitsu players that it's kind of like you can look up all of their tricks because they're going to be posting them on Instagram.
I know. I was sort of surprised, but we haven't found her. I checked out her school. It's somewhere, I think, in Louisiana.
Oh, well, look up the name in competitions because sometimes you see certain techniques and moves that are prevalent. Did you look up, like, on YouTube, like, the name of the school, competition, like, name of the school?
No, I didn't do that. I'll try that.
Maybe, I don't know, just, like, spitballing here.
Maybe I'm not going in blind. I'm good.
See, I'm thinking, like, oh, what's the strategy for that? And yeah, but that's a good thing of a competition. You just have so many looks, and I think it's important to... I mean, me personally, it just happened like that. I never got to do a grappling competition, which that's like when the world goes back to normal, I want to start doing competitions now. It's like you realize what you don't have, when it's gone, and like striking, grappling, whatever. I want to do a few, and but what's interesting when I went from one school to the other, and I noticed like there's things that I was doing in the other school that were obvious to everyone. As soon as you're going to try, they're like, I know this. Their teacher shows us this all the time. And then I would go to the other place and suddenly I was catching people with it. you know.
That's right.
But they would also do things to me. I was like, oh wait, normally this works. What happened there? You know, like so. It's kind of like I think it's essential. That's something where I've really failed myself is not having gone to a grappling competition yet, because you do like from what everyone tells me, and just this, not even the same thing for me, but just going to another grappling school and being oh okay, like you when you get different looks, you learn a lot, like you realize a lot of things, like
Yeah.
because when everyone knows you, everyone already has this. And as we're saying, you were looking up this person. Okay, what are her moves? And like you already know what the moves are, but when you don't know, then your grappling is different too. You know, like
That's true.
um,
It is helpful if you know what your competition is gonna, what they like to do, and if they pull guard, if they don't, if they know judo, whatever it is.
yeah.
So I don't have that.
How many
that
competitions have you done?
I went to the Worlds in August, and I fought 4 fights in 70 minutes. I was exhausted. Uh, I won one, I lost one, I tied two, but the ties went to the other girl. So that was upsetting, but I didn't. It's okay. So in Birmingham, I fought. I went to. I fought three. Well, I think I fought four there too. I lost all of them, but they were all younger and bigger than me. But it was fun. It was fun. At my age, honestly, sometimes you're the hammer and sometimes you're the nail. I'm usually the nail. I get hammered a lot, but it doesn't really stop me from trying. I mean, I
Sure.
figure if I step on the mat, I've won it.
Uh,
At my age,
yeah.
if I got the guts to get out there and try.
Yeah. Not just that, like I would say this. It's kind of funny because what I'm saying now is something I tell a lot of newcomers. You know, when they've been there for like a month or two, and in their heads and I was the same. They expect that they should already be way better. They think like this 1 month or two should make them killers, you know, and and I kind of like the thing that I would tell newcomers is always, hey, you know what? Grab a few untrained friends, like just in the yard or something, like just gentle, just roll with them, and you'll realize already that 1 month or two what it gave you. You know, like just realize what normal people are like, because you forget quickly. Just little details like you learn in the first few classes not to give your back, and you take that for granted because you kind of learn it fairly quickly. Like where if you give your back, it's because the other person had the trickery to make you give it. It's something that by yourself you quickly learn not to give it yourself. You know, like then it's other people just have tricks to make it happen. It's different, but just that little knowledge, most people don't have it. Like most people will give their backs real quick. That's a fact. They think they can get out that way, and then you. But what I would say is grab a few people your age, work with your friends your age.
Even my husband says, "Don't touch me." I practiced on him once, but I hurt his shoulder, so I didn't mean to. I mean, I was being careful, but he's not real flexible. Neither am I. We have arthritis in our shoulders, so.
Wait. So I have a fiance, and I feel like I should ask this for my own safety. Like, was it really an accident? Was it something he said? What should I be avoiding? So you did use him as a practice dummy for a while, and then it went wrong, and you stopped doing it.
That's true. That's true. But I think all martial arts, it's a journey. You don't ever reach the end of it. And if you think, that you're gonna be all of a sudden winning all your matches, that just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Even if you become great at it.
Yeah.
There's always gonna be that person or that moment when you weren't quite thinking or so I just started the journey really late. But I hope to go as long as I can physically.
Yeah, and you should, and like what I like is how much you acknowledge what you want out of this. When you said, "Oh, I like to fight," I'm a scrapper. When you say stuff like, I'm like, I really love your mindset. I cannot say that enough. It's kind of like you get it. You understand yourself. I think that's the point I'm trying to make. You understand yourself, because a lot of people don't understand themselves. They don't even know what they want out of it when they show up. You
That's
know,
true.
they like, and it's fine. And modern society in some weird ways squashes this part of the human experience, like this desire for a scrap or for. But I think it's such a healthy way when you go to the gym. It's such a healthy way to approach it, and even the times when I defended people, which led me to learning martial arts, because and even I started late, um, just because I was like, okay, if I'm gonna keep doing this, like not that I did it on purpose, but when stuff would happen, I would be the one like standing up, So that kind of I kind of decided, well, I better learn something at some point. Um, and ironically, after I started learning, though, I realized that I found ways to very often deal with the situation, and I never, ever since I started learning, I never had to fight again.
Right.
So,
Right.
and that tells me that there's something about me that was kind of looking for an excuse, maybe. Like, where I had this morality to me where I would never attack someone without a good reason. But if someone did something, oh, that's it. He gave me the excuse. And so
Excuse.
so it's kind of like, oh, he's buttering this zero. I have an excuse now. Like, but I don't mean just words. Like they were legit attacks, but I mean like there's a moment when um there's there's this person who was bothering an older man, and because he was running again this subway. I don't know what it is about the subway. This guy was running between the trains, opening the doors, and that would stop the train every so often. And this old man was the one who stood in his way. And what the guy did, he grabbed him and started shaking him, like mockingly. And I think the guy was on drugs. I don't know. And I came from my back in the day Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class. I was exhausted. I got trashed around by like, I think for some reason that night I only rolled with like brown belts or something, and I just got demolished. I don't even know if I had my blue belt yet, and I was just tired. Like whatever fight I had in me had been squashed. And when I saw that, I look around, and for a moment I was like, "Is someone else gonna handle this?" Like that was never my first thought before. And then my first thought was, "Is someone else gonna do something about it?" No one did. So like, and I was really like, and I got up, but it wasn't like with this enthusiasm that I had in the past when these things would happen, right? And I just walked towards the guy. And I'm like, look, let him go. And the guy kind of looked at me, and I don't know, like he let the man go because I guess he didn't want to have a fight. He was just being weird. I don't know. But it's kind of interesting how in the past I would have went to grab the guy, get him off the old man. It would have turned into a fight maybe. But now all that fight had been drained out of me, and I just took an approach that was way better.
Sure.
Um,
But you were prepared to fight if you had to.
yeah, well, yeah. But the
I mean, if
difference
he turned
is,
around and slugged you, you would have been prepared to deal with it. That's a good thing.
yeah, of course, and never step forward if you're not in the mindset of doing it. That's the thing also, because I think a lot of people they just stop at the morality of it. Hey, what you're doing is wrong, and they think that because they're in the moral right, that the story ends there. And sadly, a lot of people are not fair in life, and if they're told that they're wrong, their reaction will be very negative. They're not gonna analyze themselves and completely transform on the spot. They're gonna do what they always did. So I think if anyone is gonna step forward and do a moral thing, they also have to acknowledge that it comes with a. If you're gonna step forward, you have to acknowledge that it might turn ugly. I think that's the mindset that.
That's true.
Yeah. Um, but again, like what I mean to say is that going to the gym and getting that out of your system, whatever that is, for me that was it. For you, like whatever it was that you needed, you get it out of your system. You get what you needed. Like it's something that's very positive. And I think modern society has this notion where a lot of coaches are like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? But then but then it's kind of weird because they're like, why do you waste time like getting choked and choking others and getting hit in the head and they have this like very condescending reaction. But then interestingly enough, as soon as one of them sees something that went wrong. Like there's this girl, coworker, who something happened again in the subway, and the first thing she did that day is she came to me like, "Oh, I wish you had been there earlier." And I'm like,
Yeah.
so there's a value in this because see that's the thing. Like they look down upon that. Like you go choke people, like you go fight. but then when suddenly things happen a certain way, they wish you had been there.
Yes. And I think it may be probably somewhat different for men than women. I like the challenge of it also. I ride a wild horse. I have for, every horse I've had has been hard and difficult because I like the challenge of that. For a guy, though, I don't know. These days, it seems they don't want men to be men. And to me, that's a good way to, that's a good thing what you do. To be able to defend yourself, to not be afraid or be wussy about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I like men who want to be men. I mean, I just...
that's a very, oh my God, I don't even know if we should get into that, but I think
I know. I'm sorry.
No. Listen, I'm gonna say something. How can I say this? I agree with you. I think I know what you're saying, and it's a very touchy subject because I also respect. I have friends who are men, and they're not very manly at all, and that's fine. That's who they are, like that.
That's okay.
However, there's something that at some point, somewhere along the way, this notion of traditional masculinity got confused with toxic masculinity, and there is such a thing as toxic masculinity. There is. I've actually, most of my fights have been against people who, I guess you could call it, showed traits of toxic masculinity. But there's a difference between being manly and being toxic.
Right. True.
And I think, yeah, and what I notice is very often a lot of men who happen to be the weirdest with women are often men that are not very, and that haven't necessarily established themselves as men. Does that make sense? We're getting into something a bit complicated here, but
yeah.
And I don't want to put my foot in my mouth, but what I mean is, when I see men act the weirdest around women, they're often like these men who are very, like they would talk about people doing lifting weights or doing martial arts as the jocks, or whatever they would want to call it, but then they are the ones who behave the most weird about women.
Right. I mean, the men in my gym are so nice. They're so polite. They're good guys. Everyone, and they come in all shapes, sizes, and as well. So I think it's a martial arts really, and especially I love jiu-jitsu, of course. It's good for everybody. It is. It's good for everybody. It's a good challenge. It's fun to fight for me, even though none of my friends would do this.
Okay, well, that's true. You're doing it, and none of your friends want to try it.
Or my children or my grandkids.
That was
too hard. Yeah, the grandkids said they've tried it, maybe one class, but they said it's too hard. I don't know.
That's why they should do it. That's why they should do it, though, because it is hard.
That's true.
I'm pretty sure like they can. It's kind of funny because I'm sure they must tell people, "Oh, my grandmother does jiu-jitsu." Like
they do. They do.
Right? Yeah.
But they think my kids especially think I'm crazy, a little nuts.
See, that's what I mean. That's exactly. It's so hard to put into words, right? When you do it and other people don't, and I'm not saying it's for everyone, but at the same time, like there's something. I have a newborn son, and I want him to do martial arts because when you do martial arts, you come across discomfort, and not to be confused with getting hurt. I don't want him to get hurt, but I want him to do martial arts because, first of all, I want him to be confident in life. I want him, and with confidence also comes not doing weird stuff to other people. You know what I mean? Like when you're confident, you don't do weird body. Normally.
And you can defend yourself too. That's good.
But also, if as a kid you're used to being in uncomfortable situations and working your way out, or if it doesn't work, you understand you can try again. I think that's a good mindset to start life with. Okay, I tapped, it didn't work out, let's try again. Let's learn from this, because a problem with a lot of men too is, I think, is that they don't necessarily test themselves, but they're convinced that they would be the best at anything without having tested themselves. And that's not a good mindset to have. You have to test yourself, and like you're doing, like I'm talking about men now, I'm making it about that, but like you're testing yourself, and I think you have a clarity. I'm pretty sure. I'm sorry to say, for your friends, but I'm pretty sure you have a clarity of certain things about life that they don't. Like
Well, I have some pretty tough friends,
okay,
but they're just not fighters. They're not fighters. You got to have a fighter's mindset, I think, to to stay with jiu-jitsu. You may start it, but you're not going to stay with it. So many drop out. I mean, I've been at this gym 2 years, and a lot of people have rotated out.
yeah.
They just don't want to stick with it. So it's just I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's just me. I think I would like my grandkids just to be able to defend themselves if they need to. That's the main thing. But then they can take some self-defense courses, which they've done, and that's bullying courses they give for kids. That's helpful too. Do you think your son's going to like it?
Well, I mean, hopefully, but no, I think it will, because the thing is that I mean, look, this is my first son, so obviously, at first, like, I am very aware that parents have this whole plan mapped out, and then the kid turns out to be their own person, and that's a whole other matter. It's fine. My hope is that we have fun together with this. Like it's not like oh, I'm dropping you at this class and see you later, alligator. Like, no. My hope is that it's not like he doesn't feel like I just dropped him at the babysitter's, but rather we're doing something worldwide together, even if we're not necessarily at the same class, because kids classes and all that. But it's my hope that it's more of a family thing for him, a father-son thing for me and him. That would be my hope. But again, of course, he'll be his own person, as long as he at least understands. Like, he doesn't have to do it forever if he doesn't like it. But I just want him to at least have done it a little bit, so he understands things. How to defend himself, and because the thing about also self-defense is that for a human being to be able to do it under pressure, you can't have done it just 3 hours in your life. You have to have done it a little. You're not, if someone punches you in the face or grabs you and shakes you, you're not going to remember that one thing you did 6 months ago for an hour.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's the hardest for me is retaining what I've learned. I video a lot of the demonstrations in class so I can go home and watch them, because I walk out the door and go, what the heck did we do? I mean, it's hard.
I'm the same.
Yeah. Oh, no, you're not.
Yeah, no, yeah, no, I am the same. I am the same way. Like, it's look, I'm gonna say something that's gonna completely discredit me, but it took me the longest time ever to always catch triangles on the right side.
Yeah.
And when I learned, I'm gonna say something else. When I learned, I already had my blue belt. I just happened to do it right in the moment of the test, but in rolling, I would still sometimes catch triangles with the head on the wrong side of the legs.
That's right.
So this is not something that comes naturally to me at all. At all. I have an easier time now because when it's I have an easier time now, I guess, because I'm very driven by motivation, I guess. Like, I'm one of those traditional hyperactive kids who grow into adults where if the motivation is there, I can do a lot, but if it's not there, I have trouble with it. And I guess now that the grappling I do suits me a bit more, I'm realizing I'm getting more technical, because now it's kind of like, it's not learning how to get out of this position that doesn't serve my purposes, But again, I regret my mindset in the past, because it has limited me. Because no matter what kind of grappling you do, you're still getting better. Like, if you do just boxing, there's things maybe you'll do in boxing that you wouldn't do in kickboxing, but you're still making your boxing way better. Your understanding of it gets better, for example. Like, so these are all things that. Anyway, all that to say that no, I forget things very easily. I have to do it a lot before I remember it. And
in a fight too. I mean, I'm trying to survive. A lot of times, I don't remember all I should. In fact, the only reason I won my one fight, I had hold of the girl, and my professor yelled, "Sweep her, Elaine," and I did, and she went down. And I landed on top of her, and I didn't let her up. That was it. So had he not yelled at me, and it was a judo throw. It was a judo. Osotogari is what he wanted me to do, and I did, and it worked, and down she went. So, but I should have thought of it, and I didn't. I just in the middle of it, I wasn't thinking about it.
The other girl also had a referee for the same reason. A referee, sorry, a coach.
She did.
For the same reason. Like that. And that's something I realized in grappling because, when you have this, I guess when you go into this fighting mindset, your mind becomes a tunnel. And when you do that, you miss a lot of things in grappling.
Yes.
So you have to learn to, it's very weird. You have to learn to be very physical while letting your mind be more artistic. And that has helped me also in the striking. So what you're saying now is in the competition, you probably forgot some things that you normally know in class.
Right.
Because it's harder to not go into the tunnel when it's added stress and all that. But what I would say is you still know more than, I mean, it's the same thing for both of you. Maybe just the other person, they did more competitions, they have learned to not go into that tunnel even if they're stressed. So that's an important thing to learn. And also, the thing is that you still know more than someone who doesn't know anything. Like, so even if in a moment of stress, your skills are limited, you still have more skills than someone who did nothing.
That's true. Well, one of my fights, the referee actually stopped the fight because he said the girl was going to break my arm, and I refused to tap because I'm too hard-headed, and so he stopped the fight. And somebody asked me, "Do you think he did right?" And I went, "Yeah, probably," because I was not going to tap.
I would have.
I know. And I have an orthopedic doctor, and he said, "Elaine, you need to tap early with arm bars. You've got so much arthritis in your shoulders. You need to think about tapping early." And here I was, I didn't want to tap. I didn't want to give up.
Can you imagine for them, though? Can you imagine for that organization or the competition, like, if, oh, I heard a 70-year-old lady got her arm broken in that competition. Can you imagine how?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I've had some injuries, though. I've had some good ones. I got kicked. Well, I was trying to kick somebody, and they blocked with their knee. And we have it on tape. You can hear the thunk. And she said, "Oh, you're going to have a bruise." Well, I had a hematoma about the size of an egg. And they had to surgically cut it out and remove it because it would not absorb. It had turned to goo. And so they had to cut that out before I could get back to class.
Oh my God.
That was sort of an interesting. But at the time I finished the fight, I went to the next class before I even realized I was hurt. I didn't realize it. Isn't that true for you, though? I mean, you don't realize you're hurt till you're sort of at the end, and then you got 8,000 bruises. And
well, here's the two injuries I have. One is on my left shoulder, and it's a really stupid one. Is a few years ago, 2014, I was really out of shape. I was not doing any martial arts, any physical conditioning. I was drinking energy drinks, Red Bull, and all that stuff. I had quite a belly on myself, and this friend took me to CrossFit. And I don't want to get into the whole CrossFit thing. Like, look, if it works for someone, it works. Like, I think at the end of the day, people really get like involved with the little nitpicks of why this is good or bad. But you know what? If it works for you, if it got you in shape, then it's perfect. But what I would say is CrossFit is not the place to go if you haven't been doing anything and you suddenly start. And my friend took me to CrossFit, and we're doing this thing where you squat to the ball and then you get up and you throw it up. And somewhere along the way, I messed up my left shoulder, but I only realized it after a class because I was hot, right? Like, I was in the moment. And to this day, when I'm lifting with if I'm doing bench press, right now I'm doing it at home. I don't go to a gym. So I just have this dumbbell that I do one arm first and then the other one. So when I have the bar, this shoulder helps this other one. But now when I do it by itself, every set, that first one I do is super slow. I can't explode with it.
Yes.
But that wasn't even martial arts. That was just going to CrossFit after not having done anything, and I don't think that was a good idea because in CrossFit they go, like go as fast as possible, but your body's not used to it. The injury I did have, the injury I did have in martial arts is in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because I always want to start in the feet. This purple belt grabbed me and tried to take me down, and I stopped with my right foot and my toes. So I don't know how I landed, and at first, so I had a fracture in my foot, and at first I went and I thought that I thought that something had torn because the toes landed like this, but apparently it's the impact. I don't know what happened. I think maybe the bones hit each other. When I finally went to have it checked, for the longest time it was painful to walk on concrete.
Ooh. Yeah.
And when I finally had it checked, they told me that it was now a micro fracture. That if I had shown up at first, they would have put it in a cast, but that at this point just let it heal. But the thing is that I didn't stop training. So and I was already when I was still doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I was already cross training at the Sambo gym. When you do a kickboxing class, you start with like the jumping rope.
Yeah.
I was hopping on it all the time.
Mm.
And I was kicking with that foot. So if I cut someone's elbow, like that, I try to aim with the shin, but some people move. So you often hit with the foot, even if you didn't want to.
So did you re-injure it?
Huh?
Did you re-injure it?
I don't know. It would go up and down. It would get better. And it would it was like very it did teach me to aim more with the shin though and less with the foot, because as a teenager I did taekwondo, and I think when I get tired I start aiming more with the foot because that's how they do it in taekwondo. So it's kind of like this old wired habit from my teenage years that comes back when I'm tired. So it kind of taught me to really aim with the shin. And now with the whole lockdown and all that, my foot is doing better than ever, but I miss martial arts. But in that moment though, I felt it, but it's kind of like when you're in the moment, you don't want to stop.
That's right. That's exactly. Yeah. You don't want to stop.
Yeah, and if anything, it's kind of funny how dealing with this injury has taught me to push through discomfort even more, because sometimes my foot would really hurt, and that was the only foot that was set on the mat, so I had to use it to push.
That's right.
And I did it. So it's kind of like now, as your body gets injured, you still learn stuff that makes you tougher and more badass than you would have if you had never done it and never gotten hurt.
Well, I've actually gotten injured more being off because I live on a farm. So since we couldn't go anywhere, we were putting up fence and I stepped in a hole and hurt my ankle, and it's not going to get better. It looks like it's a chronic whatever I did. Pull the ligaments away from the bone. And then I was shoveling gravel for half a day into a wheelbarrow, and that twisted the disc in my back. So I'm injured right now, and I don't know how well I'm going to get over it, but I just fight through it as best I can.
It's kind of funny because I'm like this. I guess I was prepared for it from childhood because you're telling me about all your injuries and all that, and I'm a comic book nerd actually, and I love Batman comic books. And the thing about Batman is he's the human superhero, right? So they always make it a big deal to mention to you in many stories how messed up he is at this point, how his body is just like, it's kind of like his body is all messed up and he still pushes through it. So it's kind of like this idea that was burned into my brain since I was 8 years old, and now I'm just like, oh yeah, I guess that's it, like. But wait. So you do have a farm.
Yes.
So that means that even though you're at a certain age, you do have farmer strength.
Well, I suppose we're throwing hay and filling water buckets and riding the horses and four-wheeling and that sort of stuff. It's fun.
I imagine that must be good for your bones, actually, because
I think so.
Yeah, because that's the thing the only thing that worries me a bit more when older people want to do stuff, when it's, let's say they have been just sitting for years, and I don't know, like depending what they take, if they like the bones, and for some people can become really fragile because they don't do anything with them, so to speak. So in your case, it's probably like if you're doing stuff in the farm, it probably keeps your bones like strong,
a little stronger. When I started judo, my professor was so afraid that they were going to hurt me. He kept saying, "Don't throw her, don't throw her." And then after a few weeks, he'd say, "Well, you can throw her, but really careful, you know."
Yeah.
And I'm going, "I'm okay,"
Yeah.
But he was very worried about it. He was very worried about it. But I think for my size, I've got fairly good bones. I fell off an 8-foot retaining wall and didn't break anything, so. I was smart when I did that, though. I was on the wall. I had a sprayer on my back, and when I stepped on a rock, it tilted me over the wall. And as I went over, I went, "Ooh, this is gonna hurt." So I just balled up like this and hit on my side. And I laid there a few minutes and went, "Okay, I'm alive. I can move. I'm good." And so I just got up and walked back to the house. But it was a pretty hard. If I'd put my hand down or something, I would have broke my arm. But I didn't try to catch myself. I just balled up and stayed.
Well, was that before you started training or after you started training?
It was before.
Okay. I have a weird question, but since we're talking about it, would you fall differently now?
No, I think I would. That was the best thing to do, is what I did. Just because I went over, I knew the backpack was on me, and I landed, just balled up on my side. I don't think there would have been a better way to land, truthfully. From that distance, it was a long way. It's a long way down.
I know you're fine now, but just imagining that, it's kind of like gives me the creeps. That's something I got from my grappling early on. I live in Canada, and we have winters and all that, and ice. And maybe a few months after I started training, they teach you how to fall. Judo, Jiu-Jitsu, like that's one of the first things they teach you. And one time I was going to work, and I slipped on ice that was hidden under a bit of snow. Like I didn't know it was there, and I slipped in. But I slipped really bad, where where the foot is like as high as your face was, And, well, maybe I'm exaggerating, I don't know. But when I fell, I did a break fall, and I tucked my head in, so I realized, and my hands were like tingling really bad. My hands hurt, but the rest of me was fine, and I was like, "Oh, okay, good."
Those neck exercises are really helpful for me, because my head was it would flop a lot when I started. It doesn't now, because we've done enough neck exercises in class that my neck's a lot stronger, and I know how to hold it up. They do teach you that, but it's hard to do if your neck's not strong when you begin.
Mm-hmm.
When they throw me in judo, I could feel my head hitting back on the mat. Hold your head up, Elaine.
What do you leave
riding horses, and they do teach you how to fall off a horse. You never put your hand down, or you're going to break your arm. You come off a horse, Of course, I don't really fall off my horses, but a lot of friends have gotten hurt because they tried to break their fall with their hand. No, you don't do that.
Because it's a different mechanic, of course. And I'm thinking like falling backwards. If you fall from a horse sideways, if you put your arm there, it's kind of like, yeah. I guess so. How do you fall off a horse? Just I'm curious now.
Well, it depends. Like I've only been thrown twice. The first guy threw me over his head, and I just pretty much rolled, and then he ran over me, which was not good. Yeah. I was bareback, as we were going fast. He just planted his feet and just threw me over his head. But I got up. I walked out of it. I was okay. The second one, the horse just started bucking really bad, and when I pulled his head around to stop him, he started spinning, and he just spun me off. I hit the ground. I was still holding the reins. I was so mad. Ooh, I was so mad. But I didn't get hurt there either. I kicked the horse out of my barn that day.
I'm realizing that actually Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Judo are not the most dangerous things you do anyway in the first.
Exactly right. You're right. The last horse I had
perspective. Sorry, go.
Yeah, he would rear straight up like Roy Rogers and Trigger. He'd jump 6 feet sideways. I learned to hang on, and that's helped me in in Jiu-Jitsu. I hang in tight. I've been used to
the grips.
That's right, the grips and the legs. You got to hang on with your knees and legs.
I also imagine in judo, the fear of being thrown has to go. Like you mustn't have that fear as much as other people do. Like to be honest with you, when I started doing sambo, because in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it depends on the school, of course. Some schools are very close to judo, others are not. In my case, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school I would go to, it was a lot of single leg, double leg, more of those types of takedowns. Sometimes we'd do shoulder throws, but it was very rare. So when I started doing sambo, which again has a lot of judo in it, um, I realized that the part that scares me the most are the throws. Like not getting hit, not like the part that where I feel scared are when I'm being thrown at, and they're like, "Relax, you're gonna get hurt if you're stiff." And like I'm trying, like I'm trying to relax. But in your case, like doing like if you're on horses and they throw you around, like to you being thrown by a human being, like controlling it must have been a joke, I guess. I don't know.
My horse is big. He's 5'4", and he's about 4 or 5 inches above my head. His back is. So I have to get on him on a picnic table. He's big. He's a big boy, and when he gets upset, it's a lot of horse under you that's upset.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
I've never done any competition sports at all. This is the first time. Jiu-Jitsu is the first competition sports I've ever done in my whole life. But I have done other crazy things, like riding the horses.
I'm hearing that. So your competition is tomorrow. That's amazing, and you're like, oh, I did this one, I'm going to this one now, and obviously you're going up against younger people, heavier people. So, and you take it with a smile, and you're having fun with it, and that's just good. That's just good because like a lot of people don't have context in life where they might go like, oh, I keep losing, but it's kind of weird where either they give up or they continue, but they find excuses, like, or they use that fact that was difficult as an excuse to kind of like be in their mind, how can I explain this? Like, what I mean to say is, in your case, you can really tell okay, on to the next challenge, like.
That's right.
Yeah, and I can just imagine this. I don't know. There's this link in my head where you're on the horse throws you, and you're like, okay, back on the horse. Like it's the expression, back on the horse, right?
It is. It is. Always get back on.
Yeah.
At my age, I don't expect to win matches. I would like to survive a few minutes. Not get killed the first 30 seconds. So that's sort of a goal. And if I can get all the way through, in Las Vegas, we went the full 5 or 6 minutes each match. I was really tired. In Birmingham with the younger girl, maybe 3 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes was about as far as I managed to make it before I got armbarred or whatever it is, or they stopped the match in one case.
Against a younger trained person, that's amazing because that's what I mean. Like it's not an excuse. It's just a fact. Like these are younger people.
It's a fact. That's right. It's something I've had to deal with, and it's frustrating, just like it's going to be for you when you get older and younger people are beating you.
It's already the case. And I'm not saying to people like the whole point is start anyway, do it anyway, because you're gonna have. First of all, if you're thinking of doing it, there's something in you that needs to do it.
Right.
That's just a fact. I think that's what I'm getting, what I'm trying to convey here, and too many words. But if you're thinking about it, it's because you need to do it. So don't worry about how good you'll be in the grand scale of things, because you'll already be better than you were. That's for starters. You'll be a lot better than people who don't do it at all. And I'm pretty sure that like if you were to grab untrained people, like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you'd get them because untrained people give their backs. They do like stuff that is not wise in a grappling contest. So it's just the fact that you last all this time with these younger people is a win. Like, because by all means, they should, in theory, just like win right away, right? But that doesn't happen. And that means that there's a fire in you and you're tough, and it's just like I think if you last all the way, you last this many minutes, that's a win for you, like not in the competition, but it really is.
It is. It's true. You're right. You're exactly right. I'm just keeping my fingers crossed about Mississippi since I don't know anything about her, and But we'll introduce ourselves and visit a little before we step on the mat. Older people tend to do that. I'm not sure the younger kids do.
Well, it's a good opportunity to see the country and all that for sure. Anyway, listen, Elaine, it's been a real pleasure, and it's just like like I started this because my mindset was kind of like, oh, I want to address this whole idea you're never too old to start. But at the same time, like as we talk, I realized, okay, you were doing horseback and like all this farm work, and you fell off really high places before, and so I'm kind of realizing, okay, so it's not like it's a fragile person decided to do something. You've always been a tough person. You just decided to do it at this age. That's what it is.
That's right. That's right.
Which I personally find even more inspiring. I guess it depends on everyone, but I personally find it even more inspiring. So I don't know. I just after everything we said, what would you say to people who say like, oh, I'm 40, I'm 50, I'm 60, am I too old to start?
I don't think you're ever too old to learn something new. And that's just the bottom line. If you quit learning and quit doing, you're dead. You're dead. You may not know it yet, but you're dead. So to me, that's the motivation there, is to learn something new, do something new. If you can't do it physically, do it mentally. But jiu-jitsu is both physical and mental, as most martial arts stuff are. You got to think and react at the same time. So it's a double thing for me.
Yeah.
And for anybody that tries it.
Very true. Elaine, listen, thank you very much for coming. We're already over an hour.
Sorry.
I wish you good luck, in the tournament. I wish you good luck. I hope you have a lot of fun, which you always seem to have. And that's really the most important part. You're living life. You're enjoying life. You're alive. And that is more that can be said for a lot of people on this planet, where they just kind of like goes through life, never testing themselves, never trying new things. So I congratulate you, and I think you're an inspiration, and thank you very much for coming to the show.
Thank you so much, Bruno. I enjoyed it. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you.